Today's Debunking the Myth deals with the food pyramid. The myth is if you stick to the food pyramid, you'll lose weight in a healthy way, and the food pyramid will make you healthy. Well, Joe, debunk that myth for us.
Well, sure, like you said, the myth is that the food pyramid will keep you healthy, and the debunk is if you take the food pyramid and turn it upside down, you have a lot better chance of health.
Oh, my goodness. Now, why is that? Let me just say, the government wants the people to be healthy. Why is it so off?
Well, I guess it's where the funding comes from to provide them with the information that puts this information out. And the biggest source of funding are the food giants. Okay. And their biggest source of revenue are grains and that particular part of agriculture.
Wow.
The biggest problem with the food pyramid, Shirley, and you know, to some degree we add a little humor and say turn it upside down. You know, it's not so much that we're looking to be conspiratorial for the sake of conspiratorial, but the point we are making is this.
Well, could I just interrupt you for a minute? The viewer may not know what's on the food pyramid.
Good point.
So let's talk about what the government's food pyramid really has.
Okay. At the tip of the pyramid, the point of the pyramid, they say to use fat sparingly. Okay.
Okay.
Problem with that is that when every meal should contain some fat. And I would say 20 to as much as 30% of the calories each meal should be from fat.
Okay.
When you have fat with a meal, it oxidizes, it helps the nutrients oxidize slower. You don't want nutrients to oxidize quickly, you want them to oxidize slower. It helps keep your blood sugar down, and it helps you utilize the nutrients in the food more. Okay. So when people eat food that has no fat in it, the reason why they're hungry so quick is because that stuff just, you know, oxidizes immediately. The part about the fruits and vegetables, I think that's good. You know, the 5 servings a day, I think that's a good thing. Okay. They do not talk enough about dark green leafy vegetables, and you know, carrots are a underground fruit that are high in sugar that should probably be used.
That's why I love them so much.
Yeah, and that's better than eating potato chips. Yeah, but again, there's not enough emphasis on dark green leafy vegetables. The biggest problem with the food pyramid is the big fat part on the bottom.
Which is
they
grains,
talk about,
right?
Yes, 11 servings of cereals and grains a day.
Oh my goodness.
I'll jump over to the animal kingdom. When you want to fatten up a cow for slaughter, they really start pounding what down it?
Grain.
Okay. This overuse of carbohydrates in America, to me, is the single biggest reason for obesity, for diabetes, and all the other spin-off diseases that come from that. Because when you take in these massive amounts of carbohydrates, Shirley, what winds up happening is it oxidizes so quickly, especially the refined carbohydrates. And all grains are refined, by the way. They use the term whole grain. As soon as a grain is heated, it has 3 molecules in it. To jump right to the chase, the only molecule that survives the heating process is the starch molecule. So the only time a grain is truly whole is if it's in sprouted form. Okay,
like what I grind in my Whisper mill.
And that's good stuff. And you can get a lot of sprouted wheats at various stores, and you can use them the same way you would use it otherwise. And that is great. That's a good grain to have. But anytime the grain is cooked, it's completely compromised. And so it winds up increasing our insulin, which ultimately results in a failing pancreas, and that results in fat storage. And this is where we gain weight. We're going to be talking about prostate health today. I'm going to ask the doctor about the combination he sees of obesity or overweight and prostate disease, because I believe there's a link there as well. So there's a lot of other diseases that we also get involved in with this. So what we want to take away from it is this. Have 20–30% of your calories from fat. Your healthy fats are especially like from avocados and fatty fish and stuff like that. Any type of animal that's not been treated, you know, so a nice clean animal, bison, skinless chicken breast, free-range chicken. Your protein should be about 30–40%. More like 40% of your calories, and keep carbohydrates to about 20%. And that's the inverse part of the food pyramid, because the government says 40%. Too much, way too much.
Interesting. Well,
just look at our society and make your own decision on who's right.
There are too many obese people. Well, we've gotten several of your emails about strokes, and with more than 3 million people currently living with physical and mental impairment from brain damage caused by stroke, we sought the advice of our resident MD, Dr. Walt Larimore, for some stroke symptoms that you should look for. This is important. Listen to this.
I have good news and bad news for stroke patients. The good news is that most emergency rooms are equipped with a powerful clot-busting drug called TPA that can limit brain damage during a stroke. But the bad news is that TPA has to be administered within 3 hours of the very first symptoms of the stroke. And that time window includes traveling to the ER, being evaluated by the staff, having blood tests, and a brain CT scan. And the researchers are finding that the majority of stroke victims simply strike out on getting to the hospital in time. One study tracked nearly 2,000 stroke patients over 1 year period and found that only 15% arrived at the emergency room within this 3-hour window. And one of the problems is that most people simply don't recognize the symptoms of a stroke. So what are they? Well, first of all, sudden numbness or weakness in the face, arm, or leg, especially one side of the body. Or sudden confusion, trouble speaking or understanding. Or sudden trouble seeing in one or both eyes. Trouble walking, dizziness, loss of balance or coordination, or sudden severe headache with no known cause are all stroke signs. And I recommend that each of us understand these stroke symptoms and waste no time in dialing 911 if any of these symptoms occur. Don't let someone drive you to the hospital if you're having stroke symptoms. Always call 911 first, because wasting time may only waste away your chances of survival.
Well, that's very important information from Dr. Walt. Thank you, Dr. Walt, because, you know, strokes, as I understand it, are the leading cause of disability in this country.
Well, and the thing of it is, you know, what we want to go away with this is what he talked about and recognize it in the first 3 hours. Those are symptoms that you can recognize by yourself. If someone is with you and you're experiencing some, there's 2 other things that Dr. Walt didn't mention that you can do. One is to stick your tongue out to that person. If your tongue's kind of rolled off to one side, or if it just seems unsteady, that's a good sign. And the other one, Shirley, is, you know, you hold your arms out like this, and if you're seeing this kind of thing, doesn't mean you're having a stroke, but it means that there's something weird going on. This is where you don't take any chances.
And another thing is if you can't talk
If you
properly,
can't talk,
make the person talk.
Ask them a question.
Right, and see if they can talk
Ask them a question. You know, we offer, and I think you're going to get to this as we go out here in just a second, but we talk about being able to get a copy of the show.
Yes.
Many people do get copies of the show, and we get emails saying that people watch these shows over and over. This is one show I'd really recommend, and get those stroke things memorized. You can also go on WebMD. Look at the stroke symptoms that we talk about with the tongue and the whole arm thing, and make sure you recognize that, because surely not only can save a life, but even if when the person lives, they'll live a quality life if you get that in the first 3 hours. So I'm really glad that we covered that topic. Like we said, if you want a copy of the show, call 888-242-9393. Now, coming up, we have Dr. John Plant from the Illinois Urological Institute. He'll be here to answer some questions on men's health and prostate issues. Whether you're a man or not, stay tuned, because this is going to be real interesting.
That's right.